He's Ross Tucker, our good buddy, Westwood One, and college football and NFL analyst, host of the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Is the running back back?
Ooh, that's a good question, Dan. I'm Ross Tucker, a middle-aged phenom, happy to join the show. Now, you know what? I don't know that I would say the running back is back. What I would say is that we've lost our way a little bit the last couple of years with the value around that position or the market for that position. Like, for example, right, Dan, Saquon Barkley, a lot of people thought the Eagles overpaid him, paying him $12 million a year. All right, so we've got the left guard for the Eagles, Landon Dickerson's a really good player, okay? He makes $21 million a year. We've got receivers making 35 and close and soon 36 million a year. You're trying to tell me that a guy in Saquon Barkley who gets, what did he get? 24 carries, 24 touches, 28 touches in that first game, that guy isn't worth a third of a top receiver or isn't worth more than half of a top guard.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how Saquon found the fountain of youth. He looked like Penn State Saquon. I mean, Dan, he's 235 pounds. It looked like he had rocket boosters coming out of his butt. I mean, he was flying all over the field. And so, yes, I think the Eagles might have been one of the first teams to realize, hey, this has gotten a little carried away. We still give this guy the ball like 20 times a game. You might want to have someone that you think is really good.
Paulie, could you check to see if Saquon had rocket boosters coming out of his butt?
Checking.
All righty. You had 6 100-yard rushers. Last year, it was 3 in the first week. Now, once again, I don't know if it's an anomaly, but, Harbaugh's going to run the football this year. I mean, he's going to make that Michigan West. He's going to make sure that they're running the football. If I'm the Eagles, I'm running the football. The Niners, I'm running the football. I always feel like a team is a better team when you're able to run the football. If I'm Dallas, I would have invested in a running back. I know that they had to pay a lot of people, and you bring Zeke back in, but just having the option of, like, I'm not going to buy into play action if I don't buy into your running back. Like, right?
Yeah, and here's the thing, Dan, because I know scoring was down in week 1. I talk with these coordinators all the time in these production meetings, right? The analytics guys, they have figured out that the 2 biggest determining factors for the outcome of the game, whether you win or lose, it's obviously turnovers. We knew that one. The other one is explosive plays, right? Different people calculate that differently, but passes over 20 yards, runs over 10 yards. So what does that mean? That means everybody is playing with 2 deep safeties. Everybody is saying, you know what, especially in week 1 or early in the season, why don't you prove you can go on a 12-play drive and not have a false start, not have a holding penalty, be able to convert several third downs. So if you're going to keep having these teams playing the 2 deep safeties so that these $30 million wide receivers don't beat them over the top, that is very favorable to run the ball to. Do the math, especially if you have a quarterback that can run it even a little bit. The defenders, there's not enough of them. They can't get every gap if 2 safeties are back deep. That is why I think more than anything, why there's a resurgence in the running game. It's kind of what you have to do if they're going to sit in those 2 deep safety looks.
Yeah, and once again, it's a small sample size. It's week 1. But if I'm looking at touchdown passes here, 2019, there were 61 touchdown passes in week 1. There were 34 in week 1 this year. That's a big drop. Big drop. And the previous year, there were 37 touchdown passes week 1 collectively. Why?
Well, that's the other thing. If you're going on long drives, as opposed to getting these big, long touchdowns through the air, and you get down near the end zone, well, what do they do then? I've seen it a million times. They drop in a zone, and you're now trying to throw the ball into the end zone when there's 7 or 8 guys in there. Good luck. That is hard to do. I think the teams looked at it and they thought, Josh Allen, I did the Bills Cardinals last Sunday for CBS, Dan. Josh Allen dropped back and thought, I'm not throwing it in there. There's 8 guys in the end zone. This will be an interception. People already say I turn it over too much. So he ran and jumped over the guys in for a touchdown. I think they're realizing that is tough duty trying to fit a ball when you get down near the goal line. There's just not that much space.
Talking to Ross Tucker. By the way, Ross on the call for Bills Dolphins tonight on Westwood 1. He also has Colorado State for CBS on Saturday, and you were there for the Cardinals and the Bills. I'll go back to that game in a moment. I said this is a must-ish win for the Dolphins tonight. Perception-wise, you're 1-6 against Buffalo with Tua there. You know you're going to face them again in November and go toe-to-toe for the division. You're at home. How important is, well, more important for Miami or Buffalo?
Definitely more important for Miami. It's a short week. They're playing at home. You could argue the Bills' best defensive player and maybe the best nickelback in the league, Taron Johnson, is out. So now the Bills don't have their best linebacker, who was probably their best defensive player, Matt Milano. He's out till December. Now you don't have Taron Johnson. If the Dolphins don't beat the Bills this time, Dan, when are they gonna? Right? I mean, Josh Allen, the numbers for Josh Allen against the Dolphins are just insane. He averages over 275 yards passing and over 50 yards rushing against them in 13 starts. It's by far the most of any player against any team in NFL history. Josh Allen owns the Dolphins. The Dolphins need to end this. The Bills have won the AFC East 4 years in a row. I just think it would be so demoralizing mentally for the Dolphins if they lose this. If the Bills lose it, they'll say, okay, short week. We're without our two best defensive players. We'll have them later. We'll see those guys up in Buffalo later in the season, and we'll be able to beat them and win the division in December like we always do.
I'm going to bring back a comment Kyler Murray made after Sunday's game. And the reporter was talking about not getting Marvin Harrison the ball. You were there, and especially that last pass that could have gone to Marvin Harrison that would have won the game. He was open. But Kyler Murray is asked about not getting his rookie wide receiver the ball.
What would they do to take away Marvin?
Honestly, man, I wouldn't say they were just taking him away. I think, I'm just, as a quarterback, obviously you're going through your reads. Sometimes the ball goes to him, but that's not, it's not my job. Obviously, I have a sense and a feel for guys when they don't get the ball and when they're, when they are getting the ball. But, I leave that up to Drew. Drew always, he tells me don't worry about that type of stuff. Just keep playing your game and, get the ball to where the ball's supposed to go.
All right, so Drew is Drew Petzing, the offensive coordinator there.
Right.
He's kind of pushing off any blame that it's on the OC, but you still have the ball in your hands. He's not telling you not to throw it to Marvin Harrison for the game-winning touchdown. I'm trying to understand the mindset and be fair to Kyler Murray. And that is, how do I get him the ball? How do I not say to my offensive coordinator, let's get him the ball? He is your best weapon. Why does he have 3 targets in that game?
Well, so that's what's so interesting about that, right? It's not like throughout the rest of the game, Dan, that he was running wide open. The first time Kyler threw him the ball in the game, it was a back shoulder throw, and Harrison didn't look like he was expecting it. He was going for the fade. And after the play, Kyler kind of gave him one of these, shrugging like, hey, what are we doing here? And then later on, might have been second or third quarter, he ran a good route. He was wide open. Kyler put it right on him, Dan, and he just dropped it. One of the worst drops I've ever seen. And I've been watching Marvin Harrison play football since he was in 10th grade in Philly, high school football. I honestly don't think I've ever seen him have a drop before. He might have the best ball skills of any wide receiver prospect I can remember. It was a blatant drop. Now, credit to Petzing, because the very next play, they just ran a 5-yard out with Harrison and threw it right to him just so that he didn't lose it mentally. But I think, no preseason for these guys. And no matter what the expectations are, he's still a rookie. We asked him the day before the game in the production meetings, what do you think? And he's like, I got all kinds of feelings going on. I mean, these are still 21-year-old kids in their first NFL game. And I'm not sure. Let's put it this way. I'm not saying Kyler was intentionally not trying to throw it to Marvin Harrison late, but he certainly hasn't earned and didn't earn in that game, hey, this is our guy. I mean, Kyler was probably looking for Trey McBride or maybe Dortch or somebody else. I don't think Kyler has that confidence in Harrison Jr. yet, even though he told us the day before that he did.
Okay. All right. Now, you got Colorado at Colorado State. Is this a must-win for Deion?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Dan, last year they were 3-0, and then they lost the game, and it went off the rails. I mean, they went 1-8 the rest of the season. And it's one of the things I think that's so interesting about their model and having this many new players every year and this many transfer portal additions. How does that group overcome adversity? How do they fare when things start to go south? If they lose this game, which, by the way, they're telling me it's going to be the biggest event in the history of Fort Collins, Colorado. They haven't hosted Colorado in the Rocky Mountain Showdown since 1996. Now you have Deion Sanders and all the attention and CBS, primetime, all that stuff. Last year, Colorado was 3-0. What happens if they start this year 1-2 and lose to Nebraska and Colorado State after beating them last year? Their team is made up of a lot of guys that have shown they're willing to go somewhere else, right? I mean, they're all transfer portal guys. They're willing to go somewhere. I don't know if that's a better team or a better situation for them or more NIL money. I wonder if Coach Prime will be able to keep this group together the rest of the season and stay resilient if they lose this one. They didn't show last year that they could really overcome adversity.
I'm going to leave you with this, give you something to think about. You had Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame. They got paid $1.4 million to go in there and play Notre Dame. They beat Notre Dame. What if I said to Northern Illinois or any of these smaller schools, when you go in and you're basically being paid to be a sacrificial lamb, you can take the money or you can take half the money, and then Notre Dame must go to DeKalb next season. So you get Notre Dame going to Northern Illinois, and you get half the money, or you just take the 1.4. If I added a little spice to these games where the big guy's picking on the little guy, and then if you lose, you have to go to their place. It's a home and home.
Oh, only if you win.
Only if you win.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to say they would all take that in a heartbeat. Because even like Colorado State, Dan, they're geniuses, right? You can't buy a single game ticket for this game on Saturday night. It had to be part of a season ticket package. You wanted to go to the CSU game,
yeah.
You had to buy some other games as well. That's exactly what Northern Illinois would do. I think, you know what? It's like anything else going on with college football these days, Dan. The players and coaches would be all for it. The administrators would say, no, thanks. We'll take the guaranteed 1.4.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know. Because I'd like to see these smaller schools get paid because we know that helps their entire athletic department budget. But if you put that on, imagine Notre Dame, you lose the game, you pay them $700,000, but then it would be the biggest event in that city's history if Notre Dame went to DeKalb next year.
That would be incredible. This is what I love about college football. I love the upsets and stuff like this, which is why there's people talking about how the Power Four might split off from the Group of Five. And there's all kinds of talk about all these different scenarios. I hope that doesn't happen because, quite frankly, the college football ecosystem, Dan, they need these games. Like the MAC schools, they need those paydays.
Yep.
From the big boys. And by the way, the big guys, the big programs, they need these games too. They need games where they're pretty confident they can win and all that kind of stuff.
Great to talk to you. Have fun tonight and safe travels there, Colorado State as well.
Thanks, Dan. Really appreciate it.
That's Ross Tucker, Westwood One, CBS Sports NFL college football analyst.